Greetings and happy Friday. I have some extra time today, so I thought I'd do another quick video. Today's song choice is The Rain Song by Led Zeppelin. No Stairway to Heaven, no Black Dogs here. Find a nice Led Zeppelin deep cut. So a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to speak at Carthage College, and I talked a little bit about motion and shift and moving your playmakers around. And since using the HVAC is kind of the hot topic right now, I might as well record my thoughts and put it on the beautiful YouTube. Shout out to James Vince, how I discovered how we do this counting for placement from his book that I bought a couple years back. What we end up doing is when we have our newcomers or rookies come into camp and they're not sure, might not be football savvy of, okay, where do you line up when we say trips right, spread right, empty right, ghost right? Well, we try and teach them these numbers first. What happens with the numbers is then they know where to line up. So for instance, we have a tailback. Okay, you're going to get the one spot. One spot is pistol. 2 and 3 are on either side of the quarterback. 4 and 5 are on the hips of the tight end. Most often that's when you're H-back. 6 and 7 are slots. 8 and 9 are wide outs. So now they know if we say you're the slot, you're trips right, get at the 6 spot. They know where to go. Okay, trips left, where do I go? 7 spot. They know. Once they learn the spots, it's way easier to communicate and to learn the basics of our offense as far as formations go. How we do personnel groups. So we try and keep them compartmentalized by, Bears, Bulls, Cubs, all Chicago teams. Hawks, we throw in there too. When we go with the Y, often we'll use ponies and colts, horse theme. For 4 wide, we often will use rabbits, and then when we get in a big I double tight set, we'll use rhinos and rams. Basics of our formations, pretty standard. Big difference is, so when we go wing right, this is when we have a H-back on the hip, and it's a wing trips to the right. Wing left is just the opposite. As you see, the big difference is the slot becomes the L because he's on the left. We go split right. This is probably my favorite formation because it's got a combination of a spread 2x2 formation and a power formation with the H-back. You do a lot of damage with this formation. Split left, like I said before, the slot goes from R to L. H-back is on the other side. We have to teach them split left talks to the slot. They go to the call side. H goes opposite. Doubles right. Often we will tell the tailback where he goes by default. I have him on the right side, but early on in the offense, we'll tell them, okay, doubles right. If we're running zone to the right, then you have to be at the opposite side. And we'll go, okay, remember, doubles right, inside zone right, you're at the 3 spot. Okay, gotcha, coach. We struggled the last couple of years of what we're going to do with our inside slots. We kind of labeled them S and W, sometimes H, even though it wasn't an H. It was kind of all over the place. So last year we kind of came up with the epiphany of, let's just call them R and L. I mean, we've always used X and Z on the outside. The inside guys, let's label them so they know R and L. So we have no problems with motion. Doubles left. Really the only difference is, for presentation purposes, tailbacks on the left side. Trips right. This is where it gets a little tricky. First couple times that we started doing this and we started calling out some plays with motions, as we were calling out R, 4, L, L3, and all that all those types of motions, they were okay. And then for some odd reason, when we go trips left, they switched their personnel for some reason. Our normal player that was at the R would switch to the L when I wanted them to stay in the same spot. So it took about 3 minutes of explaining, low visual. They got it. Okay, I'm on the right inside. I'm number 3. Okay. But then when I'm trips right, I'm number 2. So they kind of switch. All right, how do you move your playmaker around without adding personnel groups or tags? We kind of struggled on this early on. It's like, well, let's just call it gazelles. Let's just call it jackrabbits. Let's call it whatever. Well, we wanted to make it easier on the kids and ourselves. So we ended up just tagging the players. So for instance, our best player who was our slot was number 23. And if we wanted to put him on the backside, we call the formation E trips. So this is E trips left. E is the first initial of number 23 out here. That would tell him he goes to the backside. Spread simply puts him in the backfield. Spread formation, that is 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. Spread would put him at the tailback spot. T trips was really, we could put it in the playbook, didn't use it in the game, but in the case that if we wanted to go to a trips formation and keep 23 in the backfield, we would say T trips. And really you can do it as far as game planning of whether you want the T to be number 2 or to be number 3. I put them at number 2 just in case our number 1 default to run out there is bubble. So we know number 4, our other slot, can run bubble. T knows how to block. So next, we go ponies. Ponies for us is 3 wide receivers and 1 tight end. And what we end up finding out is our Y this year started getting a little bit athletic enough to say, okay, well, let's put them out in space. Let's put them in a wide receiver stance and run some hitch, run a little drag with them, some good stuff like that. So instead of creating a whole new personnel package or a whole new verbiage, we just added one simple tag. The Y's name begins with a J. So what we end up doing was we would call this J trips. So what would happen is the Y would switch with our slot receiver, and then there's a great kind of a combo as far as now we have 23, our best playmakers on the backside, and now we have the tight end here in space. Next, motion and shifts. Here we are in split left. Trade for us tells the H-back to shift to the opposite spot. Right now, he's in the 4 spot. If we want him to trade to the 5 spot, we just say trade, something that he is ingrained on early on in our offense. So the example to play is split left trade 900 smash. 900 is sprint outs. That gives us the ability to get set strength to the right, then come back and trade him to the opposite side, and he can set the edge on sprint out protection. Trade, we tell him it's all the way to the hip, and it's a quick shift. So next shift that we use is called yank. Yank tells our H-back, or the tight end, really in this case, to shift to the opposite side. One little thing that we have to remind them is don't get down a 3-point stance or peg, because that would be an illegal shift. So we have to tell him to keep his forearms on his thigh boards, wait till the clap, and he will yank to the other side. And a shift and a yank trade are quick. They get to the other side. We get there, What do you do with the skinny guys? Are they on, they off? Do they shift on, off? I mean, it really depends upon your kids. We've done it both ways. I don't really, and my personal preference is keep them to the side that they're, or keep them on or off according to the end formation, because in my opinion, that means there's only one moving part, which would be the tight end. And it makes it a little simple. That way you don't have the X and the Z having to worry about on or off, and we're snapping the ball and you get a 5-yard penalty, which is not good. It's really up to you. So, for example, that original formation was ace right, we yank, we gain the edge, we run outside zone to the left. Now, for motions, what we utilized this year was we would tag the letter of who was going to come in motion and use our number spots. So that way, we knew exactly where to put them. So if we wanted to put them on the inside, the B gap, or on the C gap, we could give them that specific, that number. The big difference is when we say 2 and 3, it's not back, it's across the line of scrimmage. So our example is split left, H3, power left. So as you can see, he comes all the way to the left, and this is a motion. So he's going to do a short jog till he gets past the center. Then he's going to squat and shuffle along to stay square. And I often tell my H-backs / tight ends to coil up to unload that devastating block. So there it is, split left, H3, power left. Next motion is H5. So H-back glides to motion to the 5 spot. Split left, H5, outside zone left. So now he's all the way to the hip, outside, and we want to run outside zone. Last motion that we would call is, we call this motion return. Got this from Coach Kamen up in Michigan. It's a little tendency breaker. So return tells H-back to glide motion to the opposite spot, then return to the original area. Now why I say area is because I put in a little rule of, so if we want to run power to the right, he should end up at the 2 spot, the B gap. So I tell him, okay, I want you to line up at the 4 spot, little extra tendency breaker. So they're thinking, okay, H is on the hip, it's got to be outside dictated type of run. Then we run return motion. So return motion is he's going to slow jog to the other side, slow jog halfway back, and then he's going to coil up, shuffle, get in position for that devastating block. Split left, return, power right. Very good. Here we go with the movie time. Here are about 9 plays. I'm going to go through them somewhat quick. So this is split left, this is trade left, and this is power left. And actually this is L1 in there too. So we have 2 things going on at the same time. So we have a shift and we have a little motion goodness. So there's a clap, he shifts, a little power inside, 2 spots. If I were to be a little bit, this is early on in the season, this is where we tell him, okay, trade, we're running power to left, we want him to get on the inside here instead of outside. And let's see if we get this. Trips right, yank, Hoosier. Kind of a bad clip here, sorry, we'll just scan right over that. All right, so here we are. We're in ponies personnel. So we are going to yank ponies personnel. This is trips right to us. That means we have 3 wide receivers, tight end to the opposite side. We are going inside zone to the left. We are arcing the tight end. Tight end should be coming out here looking for work. Bad read by the quarterback. If in doubt, give it out. Here is probably one of my favorite ways that we used yank motion this year. We are in trips formation, pony set, so the tight end's opposite. We're going to yank, which is kind of nice. If you look at this, we're down on the goal line. It's pointing out. All right, who's got who? When in reality, if you notice, he is covered up. He's ineligible. We're going to run some little flood. He's on the edge, helping set up the edge. Get a nice clean edge quarterback to sprint out. Here's deuce right, tight end trips. Here's R1. One to go in motion. He's on the right. We're going R1. That means he's fly motion. Here is split right. We're going R1. Inside zone to the left. Here is trips right. We're going to yank. We're going to jet and run power read to the right. There's the yank. Apparently there was no jet on that play. So yank. Covered up. Here is tight right. We're going to H2, which sets them from over here to over here. So we get a tight bunch look. And run counter back. Decent gain there. Here's the tight. Yank. Big point of emphasis for those first putting in any types of shifts are to make sure you got to tell your quarterback to shift them over. You got to pause and call your play. Or call the cadence, I should say. Here's deuce right. Here's yank. Inside zone to the left. A little tighter view. That goes back to our discussion earlier. Are the skinnies on? Are they off? What do you do? I kind of go back to the old way of tell them we're going to end up off. Although I do tell my tight end, when I add a tight end set in, I tell my tight end to always communicate with your outside receiver here. Tell him to back up. So he should have, as he yanked over, to tell him to back up too. Just kind of a make sure that you have all bases covered. So there we got the penalty because people are slow getting off